video, I am continuing the March 2021 Bargain Bead Box projects in my Making Stuff with Bargain Bead Box series. This is the March box. It's called Vintage Violet, as you can see why. Lots of purples and antique bronze colors. It's $17.95 a month. If you go to bargainbeadbox.com, you can get your subscription. If you use the code GGC2, you can get $2 off your first box. And I want to show you what I'm going to make in this video today. It's going to be these two bracelets. I'm going to put this one on so you can see it, and then I'm going to put this one on with it because I think together they look really cute. So let me put this one on, and I'll be right back. This is what this one looks like on. It's really cute. I just love the way it looks. I think it's adorable, and I can move around really well. It works out really nice. And then I made this bracelet also with all the leftover beads I had from my other projects that were in the box. And, well, the projects weren't in the box, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so I'm going to put this one on with it because I think that they look really cute together. So let me see if I can get it on. And that's what that looks like. And I think that's really cute together. And you could always make, attach something like this to the top of this one too. Just get creative with it, and then you don't have to wear two of them. But I had a bunch of leftover beads from the few projects that I did do, so I put this one together with all the beads that I hadn't used, and it's really quite pretty too. So anyway, let's just dive right into doing this. Like I said, it's part 2, so there's not a lot of lead-in or introduction. Let's just go for it. Okay, so I have decided that I want to make what is traditionally known as a slave bracelet. I don't like the word slave bracelet, so I'm just going to call it a hand bracelet. So basically, we're going to have it wrap around the middle finger and then come up the wrist or the top of the hand and then go around the wrist. And I'm just kind of throwing this out there, just, making it up as I go. So I may change things up as I do this. I'm planning on using 2 of these components that came in the bargain bead box, and the chain, the jump rings, and then I'm adding some of my own head pins, and perhaps or eye pins, and perhaps some head pins. And I have some little dangles and things left from my necklace I just previously made, so I may use some of those. And I've got some of the amethyst left. I've got the little butterflies that came in the package also, so I've got those. And I don't think I can use these freshwater pearls that I have left over because they're too small. The hole's too small for my eye pins and my head pins. So I don't think I'll be using those. But I've got also some smaller jump rings in case I need them. They're 4mm. These are about a 6mm that came in the package. I have cut a 3-inch piece. I believe this is about a 3-inch piece of chain. Now this piece will be subject to the size of your hand. So if your hand, I have a really big hand. My wrists are small, but my hand is big. So I need to have a nice length to go around this finger and come up to my knuckle here. So I've cut 3 inches of my chain here for that portion. You may want to measure, just put it around your finger and measure where it's going to come out around the top. And I may even need a little bit longer, but I think right about there should be fine because I'm going to put a couple jump rings on there. So I think that's going to be fine. If not, I'll modify it. Then I cut about an 8-inch piece and found the center by putting it on a piece of wire like this so that I can make my ends exactly the same, and then I have this extra little piece hanging out here that I can use, and then I'm just setting it aside. So I have the extra little loop right there, the very most central or centered loop link on the chain. And then I cut 2 even pieces 4 inches long. So I put these together and made sure they were exactly the same amount of links. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these components and this little piece of chain that I cut, and I'm going to grab one small jump ring. So I'm going to use a 4mm jump ring, and I'm going to put the ends of this chain together. So I'll just open this jump ring. And I'll bring it in here so you can see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is just grab one link on one end of the chain and then put the link on the other end of the chain on this jump ring and close the jump ring. And then I'm going to grab, I think one of my 6mm, that might be a little too big. Let me see. So I think I'll use another 4mm jump ring, and I'm going to open it. I'm going to hook it to the jump ring that I just hooked onto my chain, just like this. And then I'm going to hook it to this component here and see if I have enough room to close it. It looks like I do. I think a 6mm jump ring might stick out too far, so I'm just going to try this. If I can get myself together here, I will do this. There we go. So what I did was just put the jump ring on to the component here, and now I should be able to try this and see how far it's going to pull up on my hand. Looks kind of big, but like I said, my hands are not small, so it's definitely not too big for me. So that's about right there. And then I want to connect, and I may even end up using 3 of these, but I want to connect another one here, and then from these 2 sides, or from this area here, I will put the chain that goes up, and maybe from here to here I will add something pretty in between. I want to put a butterfly in between here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this stuff off my hand so I can use it, and I'm going to grab a head pin. I've got these short little head pin, or eye pins, excuse me, and I'm going to put one down inside the butterfly like this, and then I'm going to bend that jump ring over on this end and cut it down about 1/4 of an inch long, maybe a little bit longer than 1/4 of an inch, but right around there. And get my round nose pliers and turn a loop. So I'm just turning a loop by placing my pliers on the head pin and just turning it, just like this. Let me get you close so you can see. So now I have a loop that's kind of straight up and down here. I also want this loop to be straight up and down, and it's sideways, so I will grab the loops on either side and I will straighten them out so that they will lay up from your bead mat. So they're not flush against it, they're up and down, just like that. And then I will grab some jump rings, and I'm going to have to add 2 jump rings, I believe, to this. So I'm going to open, you can use your 6mm ones if you want, but I think I'm just going to stick with 4mm. I think that's going to be better. So I'm going to put on a jump ring and close it. Wow, okay. I need to get my other, let me get my other pliers here. Those, these long ones that I just don't control them well. So let me get this. I've opened a jump ring. I'm going to put it on my butterfly and close it. And then I'm going to open another jump ring and I'm going to attach it to the jump ring I just put on the butterfly and then onto this component that has my chain on it. Just like this. And then I'll do the same thing on this one. I will open a jump ring, put it on the butterfly on this side, and go ahead and close the jump ring. And then again, pick up another jump ring. And when you're opening your jump rings, just in case you don't know, most people do, but you just have your jump ring, hold it on one side, the opening's here. I'm going to place my pliers on the other side, and I'm just going to twist that jump ring open, and then I'm going to place it on my component, and then I'm going to place it on the jump ring that I just put on the butterfly. And I am going to twist it closed just like I twisted it open. Just like that. So that's what I have so far. And let me put it back on my hand. And you'll have to try this on your hand several times because we all have different size hands. What works for me may not work for you. So that is what I have. Now, I want to make sure I make a fist and see that it's going to actually let me move my hand. It might be, yeah, it'll be okay. It might be better if I move that up a little higher off my knuckle. So I might go ahead and make my chain a little bit longer so that that doesn't sit right on my knuckle when I move. Then again, it seems to be okay. I just want to be able to move my hand. And I think actually it might be okay. Like this. So I'm going to take this off because you can adjust it any way you want. If you don't want that sitting right on your knuckle, make this chain longer or put something else here. You don't necessarily have to have this component, but the basic process will be the same. Then I am going to take this long piece of chain that I showed you that I folded in half and found the most center link right here. And I've got my center link. I'm going to lay it down here and I'm going to pick up two of my jump rings, or actually one of my jump rings, not two. I just lost my center link. And I'm going to put the jump ring in my center link. Yeah, no, I'm going to have to center that again because I lost my center link. And so I'll just put it, bend it in half here. Let me back off so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'll grab, you can even use a beading needle. I have a little piece of wire here that I'm just going to grab a hold of one of the links and see what I've got on this end. So I'm off about 2 links. That side's shorter, so I'm going to move over 2 links and see what happens. Nope. So you just adjust it on your piece of wire until it hangs exactly perfect. I have to go through this way now. And that's not going to cut it either. So I have to go this one here, and now I have my center. So I'm just going to leave that piece of wire in there. Cut this down. It's an awfully long piece of wire for my purposes here. And I'm just going to leave that there so I can find my center. I'm going to open my jump ring, and then I'll pull the piece of wire out and slide my jump ring in there. And then I'm going to hook it to this component and the very center loop here on it, and close that jump ring the best I can. And now I can put this back on and see if I've got enough length. So slide this on. I could probably get away with a little bit more chain there, but so this is an 8-inch piece of chain that I folded in half and found the center, just so that you know. And now I can see exactly how much length I need and put my toggle on. Now my chain is a little long, so I will cut probably 1 inch off on either side, adjust my length, and put a toggle clasp on with a couple of jump rings. So I'm going to do that real quick. So I cut about 7 links off on either side. So just put it on your wrist, see how much you need to adjust, and then count that number of links on either side so that your chain on both sides stays the same length, and cut those links off or open them and take them off, however you want to do it. Now I have a toggle from my own stash that I pulled out that is the antique brass color, because there are some clasps that came in this particular box, but I don't think they're going to work well for this because they're just not quite the right type. So I'm going to use a toggle. If you want to use the clasps that came, you certainly can. Now I'm just going to open it, open my toggle, and put it on a jump ring, or not open the toggle, but open the jump ring, place my toggle on it, and then close my jump ring. Like this. And then I am going to do that on the other side also. And close it. And then again, I will test my bracelet to see how it's fitting. It's just a matter of adjusting it to your hand and how you want it to look and feel and function for you. So now I've put that on. I'm going to bring these around, and it still might be a little bit big for me because you don't want this top part to be really loose. Yeah, it's still too big for me, so I will adjust mine even more. The same way I did before, I'll take a few more of my links off my chain here because this is just way too long, and it's a lot too long. I want this to be fairly close to my wrist here. I don't want it to be really loose. I don't want it to be extremely tight either because you need to be able to move your hand, which I can do freely. However, this is still way too long. So I will adjust it and put my toggle back on, and then I'll come back. And I think we're going to perhaps add some chain from here to here. I haven't decided yet, or perhaps from this chain to here, and decorate them up, and I will figure that out. And then again, you could just put some dangles on here. You could put a few dangles on your jump rings if you want around the butterfly, but I don't want to do that. I think it'll look weird. So I'm going to figure out something, and maybe I'll put some dangles up here instead and not down here. I haven't decided. But somehow I'm going to decorate this up and make it look a little bit cuter. I want to use some more of the butterflies, so I'll use head pins with them. And I may just use the butterflies, maybe a couple of the small amethysts, and just hang it from the top here. If I can't find a way that it looks good down in here, then I'll just decorate up here. Okay, so I have taken a few links off, and you can see how I can still move my hand however I want. And it's not horribly tight or anything. I can move around just fine. So that is how I want it. I don't want it to be loose, or it's not going to hold this part particularly correctly. So I'm just going to see, I can make a fist and I can move my hand and everything's fine, but it's not really loose and baggy back here. There is some movement though, and that's how you want yours to measure. And then we will go ahead, and I think I'm going to put some dangles up here. I still haven't decided if I want to do more in front here, but I know I want to put some dangles on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some head pins, or yeah, I think I'm going to use some head pins, and I'm just going to slide my little butterflies on them like this. I'm going to bend this over, and I've bent it right over the top of the butterfly here, just like this. And again, I'm going to cut it down about 1/4 of an inch here. Come here. It's moving around. And then I will grab my round nose pliers, set it at the very end where you cut it, pretty close to the tip of your pliers because you don't want it to be a huge loop, and then just start to turn a loop. So once you have it turned it a little bit up, change the direction of your wrist, just turn your hand over and then begin to roll. And then you can move your hand back and roll some more until you get a nice loop. Now the butterfly is shaped a little bit different, so you're going to have to kind of mess with it a little bit to get it on there just right. And now I can stick a jump ring on there and put it on my bracelet. All you need to do is just roll the loop the best you can. As I said, these wings kind of get in the way, but all you have to do is get a loop on there. And then we will be back and I will show you how I've decided to decorate this. I will just open a jump ring, put it on the chain here. I may decide to put something here too. I have not decided yet. Okay, so what I have decided to do is to connect a chain from the chain to the component. I used a small jump ring and a 6mm jump ring, and I'll show you exactly what I did, and then put a butterfly on the 6mm jump ring. So this is what it looks like. Now I also connected one, I tried to connect one from about here to here, and I didn't like the way it looked. It's just a little too much. So I do, however, like this. So I'm going to show you how to do this side. We may hang some dangles from here and then move it up the chain on this side. I'll see how that looks. But first, let's go ahead and do this. I've cut 6 links of chain from my very center link that I'm attached to with my jump ring, and then onto the component. From that link, I am not counting it. I'm counting above it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually 8 links. So what you have to do is, in order to attach to this bottom part here, you're going to have to use one of your 6mm jump rings that came in the package. Because this is so big to get around, a 4mm jump ring isn't going to work. So I'm just going to open a 6mm jump ring. I'm going to grab my chain, and I'm going to put that little 6 links of chain onto that jump ring, and then attach the jump ring to the side of the component here. And then I am going to grab a 4mm jump ring, count 8 links over, and attach to my chain so that it's symmetrical. So just make sure whatever you do on this side, however big you make your links, because again, your wrist may be smaller than mine or your hand is, and you need to adjust it so that it lays properly. You can do that. Just make sure that you do the same thing on both sides. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to scoop up that 8th link, and then I'm going to move my hand over to this side here and drop this chain onto that link, which might be a chore. No, it's not too bad. Okay, and then I'm going to close this jump ring. And then straighten everything out. And I'm going to, I've already wrapped or put a loop on another butterfly. And then I just put a jump ring on the loop. And I'm going to open that jump ring, and I'm going to attach it to the 6mm jump ring that I attached to the component. So I'm just going to do this, and then I'll grab this jump ring, attach my little jump ring to it, and close it. And see how that hangs, yeah. And let me show you what it looks like on my wrist. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and make some dangles here, and then just lead up a little ways onto the chain here and call it good. But first, let me see how this looks on my wrist. Make sure that everything looks fine. Attach this back here. Hang on, I'm out of camera, I realize, but I can't put this on without getting out of camera, and maybe just can't put it on, period. Oh, there we go. All right. And that is what it looks like so far. I think that's pretty cute. And the butterflies, you don't have to have the butterflies right there. You can move them up on the chain, and I may do that. I may decide I don't like them down that low and move them up here and just put a bunch of dangles up on these two pieces here and then a few this way. So I'm going to see what I decide. This works, but I think I may move my butterflies up and just put a few things here and a few things here. You could even put a small dangles in here if you wanted to. It's all whatever you want to do. Okay, so I moved my butterflies up to the links on the chain that we attached here, and then just spacing a few links apart, I put 4 butterflies on each side. Now, I have 1 butterfly left, but I couldn't figure out if I wanted to attach it somewhere or not, so I just left it off. And instead of putting my links that I had left over from my necklace, I decided I didn't like any of that on there. I think it just looks really cute with just the butterflies just like this. So this is how I ended this. Let me take it off and let you see what it looks like off, and then we will move on. But I think this turned out really pretty cute. Turn it this way and lay it out and let you see what it looks like. And that, of course, I'll lay it out nicer, or I'll find a way to model it or something in photograph so you can see it even better. But that's what that looks like, and I think that turned out really, really cute. So anyway, that is our little hand bracelet, and I hope you like it. Okay, so you can see my mess here. I have these purple beads that I haven't used yet, and then I have a hodgepodge of what's left, these coin crystals that came in the box, and just a hodgepodge of what's left, my little 2x3 crystals, and some of the bead caps, and some of these metal beads. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to make a multi-strand bracelet, I think. So I've got some soft flex medium out here. You can also use fine if you'd like, or you can use a Beadalon. I have a Beadalon 7 that actually has the a better color to it for the findings and stuff that came in this box. However, it's not quite as flexible, and it's I just rather would use the soft flex. The soft flex is much more flexible. It has a higher amount of strands in it, so it just works much nicer for a multi-strand. So I'm going to use that, but you can use whatever you have on hand. And I'm just going to string 3 or 4 strands, whatever I decide, and then I will put it on a clasp. I'm going to use some gold crimp beads because I don't have any of the bronze color. So I will probably put a bead cover or a crimp cover onto my crimp beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a few strands, and I'm going to make them not connected to anything. Then I'll put them on a jump ring and I'll put them on my clasping. So how I'm going to do it, let me get all this mess out of my way here, is I've cut a 9-inch piece of my soft flex, and that's just going to give me a lot of room to do my crimping. I want each piece to end up about 6.5, 7 inches, so by the time I clasp I'll have a 7.5, 8-inch bracelet. However, I think that I'm just going to go 6.5 inches because 8 is a little too big for me. But you can judge. Just give yourself at least 2 inches extra to do your ends. So what I've done is I've dropped a crimp bead onto the wire here, and then I'm just going to bring the wire back around and put it through that crimp bead again, and then I'm going to pull the long length here and the short length a little bit until I can get a loop on the end of my beading wire here, and put my 2 strands parallel next to each other in the crimp bead. And then let me grab my crimping tool here, and then I've got this nice little loop here. I'm just going to put my crimp bead in the second divot, the one closest to the handle, onto my crimp tool, into my crimp tool, and squeeze. And now I have a crimp where both of the wires, because they're parallel, they're not crossed inside or encased in 2 little tubes. Then I turn it sideways like this into my crimp tool on the first divot closest to the tip of the handles, and that way the 2 tubes are touching the crimp tool, and then I can squeeze and push those 2 little tubes together. And now I have a nice crimp on my wire like this. I can either cut this down or slide one of my bigger beads over the top of the end of the double wire here and start to string. And then when I get to the end, I'll do the same thing over here and come back and show you. I'm just going to string randomly. I'll probably go ahead and put on one of my crimp covers on this side just to have it there and ready. So I've got my large crimping tool. This is a mighty crimper, and it works really well to put the covers on. However, you don't have to have one. You can just use a regular flat nose or chain nose plier if you would like. Just basically put the crimp cover over your crimp tube, and then if you have a mighty crimper, you can use the first divot, the one closest to the tip, and just squeeze that little cover closed, and you can shape it a little bit in your crimping tool until it looks pretty nice, like that. And now I'm prepared. I can cut this down if I would like and just start stringing. Okay, so I have made my first strand, and I may make these individual bracelets too. I'm not sure exactly, but I'm just going to go ahead and make some strands and see what I end up with. This is my first strand. It's 6.5 inches long. I am going to put my crimp bead on, and then I am going to double back on my beading wire, go back through this crimp bead here. Perhaps. And I think I am going to, as I do this, I think I'm going to run it down through the bead here. All right, let's do this. Stupid thing, darn thing. All right, there we go. I'm going to go down through that, see if I can get through the bead also, just to make it a little neater. If I can't, I can't, and I can't. So I'm just going to go under the bead cap. I'm going to pull this down, make sure that my beads move nicely but not have a whole bunch of slack, and make sure that I make this loop about the same size as that loop. Pull it down a little more, and then I will grab my crimping tool and crimp this crimp bead again. So now I will just place it in the second divot here and crimp, and then turn it sideways in the first divot and squeeze. Make sure I got that right. If I can coordinate, we'll do this. Okay, so now that's crimped. I can cut this off, and see, running my beading wire underneath the bead cap was probably not a good idea, because it's just holding my bead cap up and it's giving me some slack here. But it's okay to a point. I'm going to pull this out. See if I can pull that back out and cut it off. And then I'll just have a little bit more slack between my beads than I wanted. But it'll hold up nicer. So I am going to go ahead and get a pair of pliers or something and pull this out, and then I'll cut it off and I'll put my crimp cover on and see what it looks like. If I like it, I'll continue. Okay, so I was able to salvage that, and I have a little bit of flexibility between my beads, which is good because I want this to flow nicely. And with soft flex, you can kind of stretch and move your beads around until you get a real nice flexible piece. So this worked out okay. My crimp cover went on a little wonky on that side too. I guess that side just wasn't going to be happy with me. But anyway, that is my first little strand, and that's how you'll make those. So I'm going to continue making a few things, a few more strands, see what I come up with, and either make individual bracelets or I will go ahead and make a multi-strand. Okay, so this is what I have done. I just did a combination, 3 different strands of the beads that I had left over, and I still have quite a few left. So I could have done another strand, but I think 4 strands with the size of these beads would be too much. So I'm just doing 3 strands. Now, when I finished, I put 1 link of the chain that came in the package on each of the loops that I created, simply to narrow down the ends so that they lay better together. And I used the chain instead of a jump ring because they're oval and smaller and would lay nicer together in my mind. We'll see if it actually works. And then I'm going to take a small jump ring. This is about a 3mm jump ring, maybe 4, and I'm going to open it up and I'm going to slide these links. Oh, there's 2 on that one. So let me fix this. Let me take one of these links off. I don't know how I got 2 on one of them, but hey, you know, hard to say. So I'll take that one off. And then I've opened a jump ring. And I am going to, so you can see there's a link on each one. I'm going to grab this link and scoop it up on my jump ring here. And then the next one, and then the next one. And then I'm going to close this jump ring. And then I will take another jump ring, a small jump ring, open it up. Just open, please. And then I am going to find that jump ring that I attached all of them together on and slide this jump ring onto it, just like this. And then I'm going to drop my clasp on. And I'm just using a toggle. I was going to use the clasp that came in the box, but it's just too difficult to do that type of clasp on a bracelet. I'd never be able to get it on for myself. I'd have to have someone else help me, and I don't want to. So, just like that. Now you can see how this end narrows down and then connects to the clasp nicely. Now this may make too long of a bracelet for me too. We'll find out, but you can always make your strands shorter. Since I never know what I'm doing when I'm making these, if I had known in advance what I was going to do, I might have made my strands a little shorter, but I didn't know. So, anyway, you can learn from my doings here. Now I'm going to put them on this end on the jump ring in the same order I put this one on. So I'm going to put this end on, the other end on. So I am going to grab a hold of the chain links on the end here, scoop them up on a jump ring just like I did on the other side in the same order. Then I am going to close this jump ring. Then I'm going to open another jump ring. This looks like it's going to be too long for me, but you know, some people have bigger wrists than I do, so it might be good just to leave it. Or I may modify it for me, depending on what strikes me, what mood strikes my fancy. And then I'm going to find that jump ring and put another jump ring on it. And then put my clasp on it. But I like the addition of the oval links at the end to really draw the ends together and make them lay nicer together. Otherwise, if they're not narrower on the end, they don't always lay well. So that's what that looks like. It's quite pretty. Let me see if it's going to fit me. If I can get it on my wrist. Give me a second and I will get this in camera, I promise. It's a little big for me. It's quite a bit big for me. But that's okay because it will fit someone else, I'm sure. And I have lots of people that like my jewelry and want to wear it, so I will be able to share this piece with somebody. And it's not horribly huge. I mean, I could wear it if I wanted to. I like them to be just a little bit smaller than that, but it turned out really quite pretty. The narrowing of the ends here is really important in the way that it lays. It lays really nice that way. So anyway, this is what this looks like.